Hi everyone, it's Shay. Today I will be teaching you how to float all kinds of ground based items. And this guide is specifically for PS4 users. So the first thing we want to make sure is any item you decide to float with has to be in your inventory. So we'll start with the hardest first, which would be this mounted bookshelf. Now I know I've seen a lot of requests for this. So the easiest way to do this would start with an open shelf bookcase here that you see in my inventory. And we're going to line up the center of this bookshelf. And we're going to press X to place. And then as soon as we place it, we cancel out of the housing menu fast as you can. So place cancel. Oh, you see how there was latency there? If it's too slow, this will not work. So once again, we're going to line up the center and cancel. And you can see that I got it a little bit off the ground. Now from here, we have to move it up in really tiny steps. So for this, we are going to use our stage panel. We're gonna put it behind here. We're gonna move it up a little bit. And then we're gonna use this Riviera wall shelf. And you can see that this is where the open shelf is, where it's purple, but we want it one notch above, where it is right there. And it's gonna be the place cancel. So X and then circle. And you can see I just keep moving it up. And we can get this out of the way. So in order to keep moving it up, we need to return this item back to our inventory. So we're going to put the shelf back, and we're going to replace it. There we go. And we just keep doing this until it's at a height we want. The mounted bookshelf, I believe, floats at troop stage height. There is a guide in the video description for meeting the height requirement of every furnishing in the game. So please keep that in mind if you are struggling to float a specific item and you do not see it in this video. Okay, so from here, since we've got it at a good height, we can just get rid of the wall shelf and we can get rid of the stage panel. Now from here, open your menu, go to character configuration, which I just shortened to character config. And you see this purple button right up here where my cursor is at? We're just gonna click that to switch to PC controls. So now your housing menu is gonna be down here. Now keep in mind, I do not have a keyboard or mouse set up, so everything you see is still on the controller. So we're going to go to Indoor Furnishings. The reason I can move my cursor around is because I have a touchpad on my controller. So we're going to select Rotate down here at the bottom in this blue menu. We're going to select the bookshelf. We're going to use R2 or L2 to rotate the object, and it doesn't matter how you rotate it, you just need to rotate it so it stays in the air. This is so that when you go out and then come back in, it remains floating. The rotate part is the most important step, aside from meeting height requirement of furnishings. So the next item we're going to approach is this Manor Bookshelf. And how this guy works is we will still use the Riviera open shelf bookcase, but we can move it up in small steps, a little bit faster than the mounted bookshelf. So it's going to be the place cancel again, and I'll switch back to PS4 controls so you guys don't get bamboozled here. And you can see that I've moved it up already. It's floating. You can see that tiny space. So from here, we're going to go with the Oriental Roundtable. I'm just going to hit cancel, and it moved up. And then we're going to use our Glade Roundtable. You still have to move it up in small steps, but not nearly as small as the wall shelf. Again, it's X for place, and then cancel out of the housing menu as fast as you can with circle. Alright, it looks like we've got that at a good height. So we can remove this. We're going to switch back to PC controls. And don't freak out, I'm still using a controller. We're going to go into housing. You'll notice rotate is already pre-selected, so we're just going to grab that baby and move it around. And that should stay floating in the air. Alright, so we're going to switch back to PS4 controls. I've gotten pretty fast at it, just from the nature of my design work. So for some furnishings, you don't have to use the Riviera open wall shelf at all. You can just go straight to an Oriental table. Some furnishings are faster to float than others. You don't have to have the centers overlapping exactly, but it does help. And for some furniture, it can be really finicky. So from here, we're just going to place cancel, and you can see it's already floating. So we're going to get this out of the way. And remember, items have to come from your inventory. They cannot come from storage. I see people making that mistake a lot. Okay, so as you can see, we have it on the table here. Now for chairs, chairs and stools in general can float at Glade Roundtable height, and for stools they can float even lower. So like this height, which is great because it's easy to make stovetops. Anyway, continuing on with our float guide, we're switching back to PC controls for the rotate option. Remember, it's L2 or R2 to rotate the object. So we're going to rotate it. We can get this out of the way and leave the housing menu, and we can switch back to PC controls. There isn't a nice way of rotating it on the PS4, unfortunately. So that's something you do have to keep in mind when doing this. So a pile of books. We're going to use our Riviera open shelf bookcase. Now these next two items will have a height requirement. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. We're going to grab this. And you can see it's already lifted up really high, which is fine. Totally okay. And we're going to use our Hingen wardrobe. We're going to place cancel. Oh, no, it floated back to the ground. So that means we didn't move it in small enough steps. And it's kind of being a jerk to us right now. Each piece of furniture is unique and can be really finicky. Oh, there we go. Let's use something smaller to close the gap here. For whatever reason. It really does not like any other furniture. So we're gonna use the center line of the furnishing we're trying to float and just place cancel. You can see it moved up a little bit. That's kind of what you want. If all else fails, moving it up in large steps, always revert back to your stage panel plus Riviera wall shelf method. So as you can see, we're just slowly moving it up. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And it should just snap on at this point, which it did, which is great news. So again, switch to PC controls through character config. And we're going to select the books and we're just going to rotate them. And we're going to remove that. And ta-da, they stayed in the air. So this furnishing has a height requirement of a Hingen wardrobe. It cannot be any lower than that, otherwise it'll snap back down to the ground. This object, the rug, actually most rugs in the game, with the exception of doormats, have a really high height requirement. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to do the float glitch quickly to make my point here. Okay, you've noticed I've got it up to Hingen wardrobe height, but if I remove it and try to float it, it just snaps back down to the ground. And that's what you don't want. So we're gonna float it again, this time higher. And with rugs and usually larger furnishings, they can go up in big steps like this. You don't have to use a wall shelf. Okay, you see we have this Charlene cabinet, and I know some people were worried because this is a Eureka item. But you don't have to use this. You can just use your stage panel and Riviera wall shelf method. I just use this because it's quicker. You can't find this object on the market board, but it is tradable, and I guarantee you anybody who's done Eureka even once has one and really wants to get rid of it. So, oh, you can see I exited so fast that the game didn't know how to handle it. Alright, so we're gonna rotate this, and you can see that it didn't switch back down to the ground. I'm gonna go back into controller mode. So from here, to make sure all of your glitches are set and that you've met the height requirement of each item, we need to leave the instance or the housing area. And then we can just go back in. So as you can see, everything stayed floating. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Remember, this is a full guide for PS4 users. If you have anything you didn't understand after watching the full video, please leave your questions in the comments. And I will also link the full guide for each furniture's height requirement in the description as well. Thanks so much. Have a nice day. Keep an eye out on my channel for more tutorial videos in the future.